buildings behind me were the headquarters for the World War II Office of Strategic Services. It was here that the first halting steps toward mind control began.
So 10 years before Stanley Kubrick made The Shining, he made another film. It was a film about mind control called A Clockwork Orange.
The Shining is one movie that has really been put through the ringer, and one thing that people really don't notice, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
All during the shoot, Kubrick is rewriting the movie.
What we see here is Stanley Kubrick trying to encode a secret meaning into The Shining that he doesn't want anyone to know about.
Kubrick has several references to Freemasonry in his films.
There's a lady that walks past that has a bloody handprint on her ass.
The Shining is Kubrick's 11th film, and there's 11s all through the film. 11 is a special number in occult theology.
The Shining has been regarded as one of the greatest horror films ever made. But is it really a horror film?
The Shining also is loaded with sexual innuendo.
The family is isolated up at the Overlook, which is a perfect opportunity for some sort of CIA experimentation to go down up there.
Using MK-Ultra methods, psychiatrically control assassins. Literally assassins.
Experimental drugs, including LSD, were administered to human guinea pigs. The patients were never told that their treatment was part of a CIA experiment.
And there is this story which involves him spiking the drinks of one of his deputies, this guy Frank Olson, and he jumped out of a window to his death.
It's a demonic possession, you know, so it makes someone feel like they don't have any control over this etherical entity outside themselves, when really it's the people who are imposing the trauma that need to be held accountable for the actions.
Mr. Thomas.
We know what happened in the apartment that they had.
There are many clues that point to the fact that this theory of what The Shining is really about is the correct theory.
We think that we're watching a horror movie where ghosts are kind of forcing a man to go off and kill his family, but what are we really watching here?
Welcome to the Hotel California.
Wendy, I'm home.
Welcome back, guys. It's lovely to be here on this amazing day, and welcome everyone, all the Ryder Ranger members to Raised by Giants live discussion. Welcome everyone in the chat. Good to see you guys again, and any moderators and or channel members out there. I appreciate you guys sticking with me through the break, but it wasn't a break for me. Let me tell you, it was a nightmare in some cases, but a very enjoyable nightmare. You know, creating the Clockwork Shining, which I just showed you the trailer for there. The documentary, that's something that is this expansive, that juggles as many topics as it does and has 6 people in it. Any editor or filmmaker will tell you how big of a task that is, but it is finished and it is complete, and I'm super proud of it. It's the greatest thing that I have ever had the honor and privilege to be a part of, and will hopefully blow your guys' socks off when you watch it as well. And it will be released at the end of the month, and I'll keep you guys updated when it's going to drop. A new Ryder Ranger channel members only video will be dropping soon for the Ryder Ranger channel members. Just see Susan became a Ryder Ranger channel member. Thank you very much, Susan. That's really the best way to help support the show and get access to bonus episodes as a token of your support monthly. There's already a fairly large amount of back catalog of members only episodes. So if you become a Ryder Ranger channel member today, you'll have a lot to catch up on, and just click the join button beside the title of the channel above the description. For some reason, the channel members only videos don't show up in people's feeds, but I've rearranged my YouTube homepage to show them. So if you just click on the Raised by a Giant's name, go to the homepage and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all of the channel members' episodes. So with that down, we have with us today returning guest, philosopher, researcher, educator, spiritual teacher, and visionary on occult and esoteric studies, Wayne Steiger. It's good to see you, my friend. How's it hanging?
Hello, Ryder. Good to see you, buddy. Get back in the saddle. Well, that's exciting. And by the way, congratulations on the new documentary.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's I think it's right up a lot of people's alleys, actually. Deals with a lot of different
on Amazon
topics.
Prime, right?
Yes.
Yep, good. So I usually reserve Saturday mornings for watching such films as in the same genre. So I'll have the wife right there as well.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love it. It's got all the 60s bands in it, and you know, good old CIA stuff in it. So I think you're really gonna enjoy it. But hey, I've started drinking tea now. I'm a tea man. Quit drinking coffee and energy drinks during the break during the making of this documentary, which was super rough. So I'm right there with the tea again. I don't know why I stopped drinking tea. Wayne, like I drink tea since I was very young. I've always
It's
loved
good for
tea.
you. I mean, it really is.
I don't know if it's like the cultural conditioning of like coffee and all that you got to constantly have coffee, but I've always enjoyed tea more. I don't know why I stopped drinking it. It's really weird.
Well, it's a sophisticated taste. I
Acquired
don't drink
taste.
coffee. I don't drink caffeinated tea, but I drink a lot of spiced tea and of such. So, yeah.
So we have a lot going on right now, especially on the world stage. We got the first debate tonight between the old Trump master and Kamala, which I'm definitely going to be watching. But before we get into like some worldly things, I kind of wanted to get your take on, because you just had you also had a little break in there, but it was kind of for different reasons, and you had some experiences that I thought would it's definitely good to share about for my listeners and my viewers about what you experienced during that. How long were it? Like 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks to a month. Yeah.
And it sucked. That's all I got to say. It sucked. And I had meningitis with Lyme disease at the same time. So this one, took me out of the body, as you would say.
Oh, you had an out-of-body experience along with it?
Well, I think different ways of looking at it. I mean, when the body starts hitting an internal temperature, of 105, it's, a lot of, you can experience hallucinations. You can experience things that your body is at so weak that the spirit has the ability to many times overcome the hindrances of spirits outside the body. And I was really sick. I was dying. And my wife is a nurse, and she was very much aware of it. And I went to a place that, for me, and of course, when you have these experiences, they're very personal, very personalized, is what I called the bridge. I've later since read, because it was quite remarkable, that this bridge was of such a multifaceted colors that I can't even describe. And come to find out, there's been others who have experienced similar type of experiences, and it's known as the Rainbow Bridge. So, yeah.
Did you experience like peace there, like peace and hope?
Well, it's very interesting, Ryder. Yeah, the show I did on that is Meeting the Specter of Death. It was death. It was the spirit of death, but I wasn't afraid. And I remember it distinctly talking to me. Tall spirit, really was. It put its hand on my shoulder. And yeah, there was a peace. I wasn't afraid. It was, very compelling, because I've been at that place before when I almost died, and I couldn't see past the middle or the bridge. This time, the mist, whatever you want to call it, had lifted, and I saw a number of people that I hadn't expected to see, and yeah, it was very personal and very lasting in the consciousness.
Did you see people that were currently passed on, or people that are living?
No, everyone that I saw, and it was only a handful of people, a couple were a real surprise, have already passed over. The person who I first noticed was my mother. Now, I was never close with my mother, but and the one that shocked me the most, as I told my audience, that she lived over in Norway. Her name was Carla, and Carla made the decision to leave on her terms. And she was a young woman, and I was surprised to see her over there. And it really touches me emotionally because she sent the last picture of her moments here before she went into the facility, and there she was. I mean, it was like, I did not expect that. And they didn't talk. They couldn't talk to me. But it was very obvious that they could see me because I saw them. And she had the most beautiful smile. I mean, there was the way that I described it, and as I relived the moment, was exquisite joy. So I had not expected that at all. That really shocked me more than anything else.
Yeah, I would imagine. And I think it would be super weird if you got over there and then like everybody that was there was all like living. Like they weren't people that you knew that was already dead. Would not be a
my
trip.
philosophy is that this is the death realm anyway. So we're the dead, and they're actually the living. No.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. So you weren't able to communicate with any of these passed over loved, but you were able to get like an impression.
No,
from
yeah. They saw me, and I saw them. And the thing that was very interesting was they weren't concerned. There was almost like, hi, death, the spirit of death, the specter of death. I mean, if it's very interesting because you don't speak words, you hear thoughts, and it's I can still quote it right now. It said that there is an appointed time in which the crossing will happen, but this is not it. And I came back into consciousness with my wife, medically checking me out. So yeah. Saw a
Did
good
it
friend of
hurt?
mine.
Did it hurt coming back into your body? Because I've had one
I
of
was
those where it was rough. It
bone
hurt.
crushing pain is the way I would describe it, in
Mhm.
every freaking joint. That just sucked. Just sucked. The fever was, the other thing, and it took me, like 8-9 days to finally get that where the fever was broke. So yeah,
Well,
it's real.
I was talking to Trina because when I was making this documentary, I couldn't pay attention to anything about what was going on. Like I was just shut off from everything. I didn't watch anything. I didn't look at anything. I hardly even scrolled through any social media or whatever. I was literally just working on it every single day, all day, like for hours and hours and hours at a time. And near the end of it, when I'm getting close to wrapping it up, I decided to check on your channel, and I was like, "Oh, what's Wayne been up to these days?" And I get over there, and I seen that you hadn't posted anything in a while. And then that's when I tried to call you a couple times, and you didn't pick up. And then I texted Trina, and she told me that you were, healing. I try to say healing as much as possible because sickness just keeps that revolving door of sickness. So she told me what was going on, and I was like, Wayne's going to pull through for sure. There ain't no way no stupid freaking virus is going to take down Wayne. Not possible. So.
Oh, it's very kind of you. Well, you've experienced some divided peace is what I call it, because it sure ain't fun. Yeah, it was so intense. And to have a moment like, listen, it was real to me. I as I told my audience, and when there were some things like our reality is really this cube. One of the things I remember distinctly was we are inside this reality, and there is a bridge. There's a bridge for all of us. Now, maybe it may not be a physical bridge like it was and is for me, but I have no doubt that when my time is ready, because Ryder, we're all born and we're all waiting to die. Now, what you do in between is where the game really becomes real. But in essence, when the first day we're born, we know that we're one step closer to the day that we will die. And I'm one who believes that consciousness survives what we call the physical death. And there's a transcendence that takes place in there. I don't think we ever physically die. My philosophy is that this is the death realm. We are born into death. We experience death. Everything here dies. You have to eat something that was alive in one form or fashion in order to live in here. And each day our bodies die, and our consciousness are not aware of that. There is this place where we all sense it. We're the observer and the experiencer at the same time. But we get so used to this realm that we think that this is real. We think that this is how it really is. And we're taught that death is the ending. And unfortunately, in Western cultures, death is looked at as something bad, when actually it's merely emerging back into life. Because if death is eternally longer than life, I think we've got it upside down. I think that it's what we call death is actually living, and it has no death within it. So I will make it back to that bridge. I will see those people. I saw Brian, good brother of ours, Milky Way. And I told Trina he was wearing that damn hat. And I swear he had this shit-eating grin on his face. It was like, it's like, yeah, I've been over here for a number of years, and yeah, I think you got it right. So anyway, yeah.
What did this place feel like? Because obviously, when you kind of describe it, I think people that are familiar with, Christianity and the Bible and any kind of religious institution kind of automatically thinks of like heaven. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But was this the type of impression that you got? And did it feel realer than real? Like, did it feel realer than the reality that we're currently in?
Yeah, and it's going to sound strange. This place, it's a physical place, because I remember looking up into the firmament, and wow, as I told Trina when I could actually begin to have enough strength to talk, then told her that it was, wow, it was just, there were spears up there, huge planet-like things, and it existed not over here, but when you looked directly on, that's where it existed. And I don't know if I'm making sense here, but it's like when I turned over the first time I saw Carla, this didn't exist, but when I looked over there it did. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a it's like it probably exists complete, but what I never saw the completeness of it. Only when I looked over there, I saw that specific area. So, yeah.
Kind of like a video game. That's how a video game would tend to operate. Like you're a character
Yeah.
going through a video game, and depending on where you are is where the environment renders.
And your point of perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's real. I happen to absolutely believe there. I've been there before. And, you know, when I almost passed with the meningitis, that was the first time that I had come to this bridge. And
What
it
year was
very,
that? What year was? Did you?
1993, thereabouts. Yeah. I was in a coma for 8 days, and yeah. So that was, and it was a completely different feeling this time. When I was in Knoxville, this is where I got really sick. I was afraid. You know, it was something that I didn't want to see again. And here, 35 so years later, you know, you look back and you go, it was different. Yeah. I certainly didn't expect to see my mom. I mean, the relationship I had with my mother was one that could be written in the books. I mean, yeah.
I hear that. I got the same type of relationship.
You know, exactly. And you got to love them. I mean, they, you know, our mothers give birth to us, but wow, mine was a trip. As I'm sure yours was anyway. And I didn't expect to see her. You know, I did not. Carla was the shocker, though. Wow. It just says something, and I'll encourage with you, Ryder, is that when we do shows, you know, and we become, you know, content creators and doing these, we're never aware of some of the things that we do for people. And I don't think that so often that we know that there are those who are really moved and we help in their lives. And that was the sense that I got from Carla was, you know, it was just very different. So the things we do here do in fact carry over to that other side. I think we're specific. And I'll share this with you. In this time, it was impressed upon me that many of us are spirit guides in training. In other words, when we finish this mission here, many people listening to us, you're not going into the same place that many of the other souls will go into, spirits, however you want to define that. I believe many of us will actually be beginning to be guides for those souls, those spirits that are coming in to this realm.
That would make sense, like a kind of a graduation type thing. You do okay here, and then you go on, and then you go on to help somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine, and you know, the responsibility to be a spirit guide to another spirit, and that, and you know, rookies don't get into that. You know, so maybe that is my next destiny. Who knows? But it doesn't stop. That's what I do know for sure. I didn't see any pain. I didn't see anything scary. I mean, but I don't think like that either. In my spirit, I don't see death as this foreboding realm. I don't. I see it as a liberation. And these bodies weigh us down. And they rob us because of the density of this reality. And we become convinced that these physical bodies and that which we experience and respond to is real, and it's not.
You know what I just thought of when you were talking about how you were there and you were looking according to your perspective and where you're looking, things would appear. Maybe that's so that your mind isn't overwhelmed,
blown away,
doesn't overload your mind, and it just doesn't shatter into a million pieces. Because if you were to see everything all at one time, it's just going to overload your brain. You're just going to go into a nothingness, into a freaking void of nothingness, because your mind can't handle it.
Very good. I mean, it may, in fact, like you said, it may be, that safe switch, because I'm sure it's an experience. Everything I've read from the occult point of view about death is that it's orgasmic, and that you wouldn't think that because of so many tragedies, what you see people dying, but there's times when great pleasure can be also intense pain.
Yeah, probably, I guess, orgasmic in the way that it's like a relief. That is
Yeah, I
probably
think it's going to be a
because
big
this reality is super dense, and we're in bodies that we're probably not technically meant to be in. So when that spirit is released from the body, it's like, a giant weight has just been lifted up off of your shoulders. That's how I felt in my near-death experience. It was just like, finally, everything's okay.
If there's a hell, it's these bodies.
Yeah,
we're trapped here. A spirit can't just, unless you're trained, and it takes a lot of training, but most people, the most they ever experience as far as an out-of-body experience or something similar to that is their dreams. Other than that, they don't really think beyond that point. And those of us who become aware of that, it's very odd about your film. And I want to get you on the channel, you and Jay, if you both come on, I love it. So you were talking about the LSD experiments that were being conducted in the late 60s and early 70s. And at the time, I was living in Houston, Texas, in the Montrose area. First, was living on the streets. I was 15. But I hung out with I sold a lot of drugs. I sold a lot of LSD, a lot of mescaline. And when you're 16 years old and you can't go to school because you don't have a permanent address, this is the great thing about Harris County. Thank you, putting me on the street at that age. But so, I was very well versed with taking acid. I mean, I take it almost every day. And if I was selling like clear light acid, or which was typically many times, depending on the mic and the chemist who was putting it, you could have, like 200 mic acid, even a little stronger than that. So, and it was this chick, I still remember her, had beautiful long blonde hair. Anyway, she asked me if, I'd like to come with her to this group where they give out free acid. And I was like, yeah, that's cool to me,
Why not?
We went down, and at that time in Houston, down off Memorial Drive, there was Ben Taub Hospital. There was a lot of medical offices around there. We went there, and it was like, I don't know, 5 o'clock or something. We went there several times, and it was weird. It was a nondescript office, and her and I went in there, and I don't remember signing anything, but there were like 6 other people there, and this dude comes in with this other chick, and they begin to say, thank you, and it was like, so what we're going to be doing today is that we're going to start concentrating and learn how to begin to meditate and begin to project your thoughts outside your body. I still remember the whole spiel. And so they came around, and for us, it was an eyedropper, and we had to lift our tongue, and they put it right underneath their tongue. And, it was very interesting, the what was taking place in the group, and it was always within a group session, and individually, I don't know if they were watching this. I just wanted to get laid. I wanted to have sex with this gal. So that was my motivation.
Did you get to? Did you get to?
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
Wayne got her, yeah, boy.
I'm just 16. What can I say? But anyway, yeah.
Who was running this? Do you remember the name of the building or the group or the people?
It was in the Texas Research of Mental Science. I believe that's who it was being, conducted through. And we went there
Sounds
for
like a CIA front organization. That's normally what
well,
they
and
would
that's
do.
when I saw your movie, and I've seen other clips, and it's always drawn me back to, so what was this? I mean, what was really going on? What was the purpose? But yeah.
Well, that's what they would do is they would pay companies, subcontractors, universities, a lot of universities. The CIA would pay them. They would fund the experiments, so that way it's not really like a CIA per se program. It's a university program or as some other foundations program, but it's
Plausible
just being
deniability.
funded. Exactly, that's what it is. Yeah, it's just being funded by the CIA. There's several of those types of programs, like the Ames Leaf Room, which was done at a university where they would take students into this room that is just covered in leaves and put these goggles on their face and then give them LSD, and then they would trip out and like go crazy and end up in the emergency room. Like a lot of weird experiments like that weren't directly ran by the CIA but were funded by the CIA. And the CIA also did, like, they would rent out entire they would create entire wings of hospitals to do experimentation on. One of the biggest ones is up in Canada with Dr. Ewan Cameron. That's where a lot of the psychic driving and depatterning techniques would happen, where they would take they would basically torture them and to erase all of their memories and erase their mind, and then they would reprogram them and put new thoughts and new ideas into their head and whatever it is that they wanted them to believe. And he got a lot of that from German scientists. It's where he learned how to do a lot of those techniques, was from Germany, Nazi Germany. But that's really interesting that you got involved with this program, because I've been meaning to ask you more about it. You've brought it up a couple of times, but for some reason I never really follow up on it or ask you any questions after, and that's my fault. But how many people do you think were?
I think there's like 7 or 8 of us, and I remember that there was a couple of college students, and then there were people like me. I mean, when I was growing up in the Montrose area, I mean, there were thousands of us teenagers. It was, no one really cared. And so I think as far as, ever something going backwards with myself, it was pretty low risk because no one was really concerned about us anyway. Maybe the other reason, like I said, I only went there because of the chick that I wanted to ball. But yeah, and quite frankly, I liked LSD. I mean, I have no doubt that, the cops probably knew that, because I sold quite a bit. There were a couple of chemists at the university that, we would be able to get, whether it was like Orange Sunshine or, a number of different ones. But I enjoyed the effects of LSD, and it didn't frighten me. And so getting involved in this like 5 meetings that I remember, it was pretty cool. The teaching us to meditate transcendentally to begin to project ourselves out. That was a pretty cool lesson, because I carried that with me on other trips. I remember we would put these headphones on, and they would and I don't know what the other participants were hearing, but you would hear the different octaves of notes and sounds coming through, and we were to describe, what we were seeing for. And I still remember that there were always the colors, with certain notes. And yeah. And I've been trying to think, because there's a couple of sessions I don't have any recall, which is pretty weird, but of what happened or what did not happen. I don't know.
Did they give you, like, was there like a debrief type thing after each session where they would sit you down and be like, hey, ask you more questions, or was it questions like during the experience?
it was during these trips, and within 4 hours, you were typically peaking, and that's the most intense moments, and that's when these, particularly with the sounds, I remember is that, that's when they would get us. There was another time where you get a hold of the other person and you start trying to think their thoughts. You're looking at them, and then you got an observer over here watching this. I remember that because this chick that I was with, it wasn't the girl that I wanted to get laid with, but she grew these freaking ears. And I don't know if you remember the striped gum that was, yellow and then it was green. And anyway, she turned into a green striped thing. And it I still remember that. And I just started laughing. And anyway, so yeah.
That's wild. That's what so did it seem like it was success? Did they ever give you any kind of indication on the status of the experiment, or like how it
Mm-mm.
went, or like
No.
did they consider it successful or what?
I guess they did. I mean, it was a limited time. I remember, there were 5 different times that we went in there to that office, but yes, it did. I I guess I was just that type of dude that now I saw some people freak out, particularly this one guy. Yeah, he had red hair and a red mustache, and I don't know where the fuck he went, but he went someplace that the rest of us didn't go. And yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
I can't. That sounds like the. When did you say this was? In the 60s?
1972.
1972. Okay, I think because what that reminds me of is the Monroe Institute's binaural beats that they were working on, which was a way to induce an out of body experience. Have you ever heard of the Monroe Institute?
I have, but I was not connecting the dots. I mean, I have to look into that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. What year did you say that was? 1971.
1972, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Well, Monroe Institute wasn't founded until 1974, but it's still an interesting correlation there, because they would get these binaural beat tapes, and you can still get them online or whatever. And there would be like, of course, back then it was cassette tapes, and you put them in the cassette tape, and the whole idea was to induce an out of body experience, which is sort of almost exactly like what you said that this experiment
We
was
were
trying
just
to
using different chemicals.
do. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I would imagine doing it with LSD, and these beats would shoot directly out of your body.
I remember I was living with a guy, Nelson, and anyway, we went down and saw Creedence Clearwater Revival in Bo Diddley, and I had gotten this window pane acid, and once I sold it all, we went into the concert, and I mean, really started getting in with. I remember Bo Diddley playing in the freaking light and the things coming out of his guitar. My point to that is that when we got back to the house, I was laying out on the car and looking up, and the moon was full, and there were clouds moving it. And the next thing I know, I was out of my body, literally out of my body. And one of the most fantastic trips I've ever had. But I guess I would have never had learned that technique if I hadn't been taught by whoever the yahoos were that were teaching us how to use our minds in with intense hallucinogenic effects.
Yeah, that's wild. That's a really good, because I haven't ran into anybody that's really been a part of any of those types of studies. I mean, there's people that say that they were whenever they were like really young children, but it's hard for people to remember that kind of stuff. It's hard to remember anything from when you were really young, you know,
Yeah.
like 8, 9 years old. Can't remember shit from when you're that young.
Being a
But
teenager on the street, though, I can tell you.
oh yeah, absolutely. I can remember a lot from my teens for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, so I have actually talked to professionals, psychologists, and because they found it interesting. So, what effect did that have on, the brain, my brain compared to another subject that at the same age in non-similar environment? Does the introduction of taking, LSD, these type of hallucinogenics, how does that rearrange the thought of the brain in itself? And it's interesting. Here I stand at the age of 69 and look back, and to me, it was very normal. I mean, most people don't take LSD, but for me, I just enjoyed it. I used to go to the mall and walk in between the Persian rugs, the ones that were like 20 feet high,
Yeah.
and just being so stoned and feeling the textures and seeing the paisleys and the multi. As I tell people, I learned how to exist in 2 dimensions at the same time, because that's what it does. It completely alters your perspective on reality, but yet reality is really happening around you. I mean, there's other people who are not stoned, and you are. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's different kinds of drugs interact with people differently. I mean, I know some people that can't smoke any kind of weed. It just puts them immediately into a psychosis. And then I know people that smoke weed every single day and it doesn't really do anything
Like
to them.
like
I
Jake
know
and
people,
Chong.
yeah, I know people that can do LSD and eat mushrooms all the time, and then I know people that can't.
Yeah.
They do it once and they're immediately into a straight up psychosis. So yeah, I think that I don't think there's any kind of blanket type of statement for people. Like you can't really advocate it for everyone because
No, I mean,
everyone's so different,
and again, this was 50 years ago, so it's nearly 50 years ago. God, where does time go?
it's just flying. You know what I've really realized, Wayne, is that there's like a percentage of people out there that you can't reason with anymore, like logic and facts just have no bearing on their reality, right? They just repeat the same standard type of programming, the same talking points, right? Though we have seen a lot of people slowly begin to, really see what's going on, but there's also a problem with that. There's a problem with catching on to the fact that we're never really going to know the real story surrounding any event, right? And the response to that is, the problem. It's either that you continue the bullshit and continue to believe the bullshit that they tell you, or you become cynical and you stop believing anything. And I think that's the biggest problem. Like everyone is like, everything's fake, everything's staged, blah, 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 blah.
Nihilist.
And exactly, nihilism. And neither one of those, either, believing in all the bullshit that you're being told or the nihilistic outcome where everything's fake and staged, is adequate ways to live your life, right? Because both of those outcomes are perfect for the people that want to maintain power. Because if people keep believing the nonsense, the group that's in power can do whatever they want. And if people become so disillusioned with the system and start to believe that everything is fake and staged, also perfect, because they aren't a threat either. That's really how it works. Just like how everyone says, oh yeah, well, the left and the right are just the two sides of the same coin, or the other saying is two wings of the same bird. Well, so is believing everything that you're told, and also thinking that everything is fake and staged, because they both lead to the same exact outcome, which is chaos and destruction, because neither do anything. And I'm just seeing an increase of this, like with everyone. You know, they're either on one camp or the other camp. Like, I'm believing everything that I'm being told, or I believe absolutely none of it, and it's all bullshit, made up nonsense. And I think that the truth is in the middle, you know, and that's not me trying to be like take the center path or the middle path or whatever.
Take the purple
I
pill.
just, yeah, take the purple pill. But I think that that's the truth. There's got to be like a balance here. What do you think of that? Have you seen a increase in this type of behavior where people are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's all fake, it's all staged, it's all made up, it's all garbage, it's all nonsense"?
It's like I think it's a result, and I'm on the record on this one. I think the internet is not this benign tool that we really think it is. It is a system of takeover, and the species, the Homo sapiens species, where we are in our development, I think we're at that fragile point. And what's happening, as I see it, is that there is this so much information download. And the information, our brains are not equipped to handle this. I mean, you think about this, go back 200 years ago. People had more time to meditate. People had more time to think. Why? Because there wasn't the noise. And today, that noise has become a cacophony of just absolutely, it shatters us. And there are those psychics who, not psyches, that have taken the point that everything that they see in technology is fake. It's manipulated, it's controlled, and therefore, I'm not going to believe any of it. Okay, well, you believe in something. And then you have the other side of the equation that I see it. And you know what they're doing this the most? This is really weird. In rest homes, nursing homes, assisted living homes. They put on, for instance, CNN is on every one of these buildings, every one of these places. And so you have this other crowd, and I'm speaking for the senior citizens, and then this goes down all the way in each demographic group. They're convinced that that's the freaking truth. That's what reality is. And it doesn't matter where you try to tell them that not quite right. You know, they'll never see it that way. And I think it's this program that it's designed to polarize us. It's designed to bifurcate us in our views and our opinions and our abilities to cohesively talk and form opinions and ideas outside what's being fed. And I look at the nihilism as an opportunity to, because they completely want to be in denial of everything. And to me, that is a more manipulated mind than the one that's already been converted. And I think we're going to see this continue. Now, I think there's some wild cards they've thrown in there, but to answer your questions, yeah, and I think it's becoming very clear as to those. I've told this to my audience, Ryder. When governments begin to look for total control, they don't look at the nihilism. They don't look at the converts that are already watching Fox News, MSNBC, whoever it is. They have their own little circles over there, but they're all the same group. The ones they fear the most are the free thinkers. Because we can look at this and say, yeah, there's reality, folks. There's no doubt that this is real. Now, the question is, well, who's behind it? What's its end game? What's the purpose here? And it's us. And then they tried to initially enable us as conspiracy theorists. You know, well, everything is conspiracy to them. No, we're not that either. We're rational cognitive thinkers that we question everything that's in control. If you're in control, then there's a reason for it. Why? And so they try to get rid of us. I mean, look at the purge that happened on YouTube about 5 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, it was weird. So I think us free thinkers have the opportunity to show, particularly the nihilists, because like I said, they're so easily manipulated where they are, that it's all right if you think that, but just instead of this denying everything, just question it. Don't deny its existence, but question it, and question it for why is it? I mean, I was one time very deeply into the ministry of Christianity. And you look back on those techniques, it's very interesting because it is a form of mind control.
Yeah, there's this thing, it's called the Cartesian crisis. Have you ever heard of this? The meaning of the Cartesian crisis describes the inability to be sure of anything, right? So you're not sure of, scientific methods, basic facts and historical events, to such a degree that it leads to the complete collapse and destruction of reason itself. And I think that's where we're currently approaching, especially with the community, not my community, not your community. I'm saying like the community as a whole, right? I think that's where it currently sits. And
that's
if
a
it keeps,
dangerous place.
it's a very dangerous place. And if it keeps going like this, I feel like it's going to implode upon itself.
Yeah.
And if you straddle the fence, then you're inevitably going to be devoured, right? So it's like, I feel like that's where things are headed. That's just where and Barack Obama has talked about this. Obama has talked about it. Yuri Bezmenov talked about it, the KGB defector that I've showed on this show several times, right? If you confuse the public so much to the point that they no longer know what to believe, then they can do whatever they want.
Yeah. Holy
If you
crap.
just throw so much information at them 24/7 all the time that they no longer know what to believe, they're so confused and so out of alignment, then the plan is solidified.
Wow. So you look at what's happening, and there's always an end game. There's a purpose to this. And it's one of those things like with the Georgia Guidestones. Was that a warning? Was that the contract that they were trying to show the world what's going to be coming? That the world should have no more than 500 million people living on it. And then you have the associated rules that those 500 million should be following. And I'm often wondered that if we're really in the midst of history, the Sumerians had the unique ability as a culture and society to understand that they were taking an active role in history. That's why they were the first ones that actually put down in the tablets the Sumerian writings. And I think we're at that same point. I think that we're at a point now in our development as a species that the end game is coming very quickly, because this much psychic energy, and that's the thing about the internet, it sucks the psychic energy of the participants, the prisoners, which I guess we are, and that eventually cannot continue to maintain at that same level. I mean, I often wonder, are we on the verge of a civil war in this country? Is there something here in that is going to implode us as a country? The old saying is true: a house divided against itself cannot stand. And are we right now in that which the historians will write 1,000 years in the future, maybe even 100 years, that it was us, our generation, this moment, this time, we were the active element of what was going to impact history from here going forward in a manner that, the same as the fall of the Roman Empire, the fall of the Byzantine Empire. I think that we're at one of those critical junctions for us, not as a nation, but also as a species.
I agree with that absolutely. 100%. We are approaching that time very rapidly, and it's going to happen within the next couple of months. And if it doesn't happen within the next couple of months, it's going to happen by the end of the year. And
Oh yeah,
we're at
yeah.
that critical point right now. And one thing that I just want to know, Wayne, is who in the hell is currently running our country?
Good
That's the only
question,
thing
isn't
that
it?
I want to know. Who is it? Who's running our
Well, we
country?
know it's not
Right now?
Biden. We know it's not Harris. The question really, and this is the scary thing, because the social channels don't want this out there. It's very evident to the observer, those who are looking for this, that this is a very clear that this shadow government is actually the one running it, and we don't know who it is. It sure the hell ain't Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. It certainly isn't the Senate. Do you know the Congress has been out for 6 weeks? I mean, this is nuts. And you look at all these factors, there's something else going on. I deal a lot of times in day trading, and I have been watching the manipulation of gold. And what really freaks me out is where I see silver going. And that tells me clearly, for instance, the Russians have been for the last decade buying gold, 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 the bricks. That's what they're all about. And they're increasing their position. You look at people like Jamie Dimon, who is saying that the red flags are everywhere, but no one in America is aware of it. And I happen to agree with you. We're going to wake up one morning because the Fed's trying to do the Fed one thing with the digital dollar. They have to. That's the only way that they can control this crash that's about to hit us. I don't talk about it very often because it freaks people out, but it can't be avoided.
Yep.
And when it hits, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be it's going to catch a lot of people off guard. And the first thing that we're going to see is the collapse is the food chain. And we're already there. People aren't realizing. When we talk about inflation, we talk about how much it costs to eat. It has advanced in the last 4 years, nearly 31%. You can't sustain a financial system with that type of increase. Eventually it collapses. And for me personally, yes, you're right. We are so close to this. Yeah.
And it's really scary. It's really scary. Like when you think about it, when you sit back and you really, because a lot of people like to romanticize, the collapse of civilization and how awesome and fun it's going to. No, it's not. It's going to be the
It's
worst
ugly.
thing that you've ever
People are gonna
experienced in your
die.
entire life. Lots of people are going to die. And it's not going to be fun in
No.
the least bit at all, period. But movies and TV shows have programmed people to think that, this is what we want. This is what's going to happen. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be like Mad Max land or whatever. No, it's not. It's going to be really, really bad. And I see it coming. I just went to the store the other day, and for one meal, Wayne, it costed me $60.
Wow.
One meal. I was making some veggie enchiladas, and to get everything for those veggie enchiladas costed me $60. And that wasn't even, and that was with 2 orange juices on top of it. 2 liters of orange juices. That's it.
Yeah.
Just 2 liters of orange juices and everything that I need for enchiladas. That's it. And it wasn't even the expensive stuff. It wasn't even like the really great organic food.
The good stuff.
Yeah, it was literally the basic stuff, and it cost me $60 for one meal. Like,
And that's what amazes me.
And that's the thing about inflation too, Wayne, is inflation never goes down. Once it goes up, it just keeps going up. It never. It's not like gas prices. How gas prices can fluctuate and go down sometimes. Inflation is not like that. It just keeps going
We're
up.
not going
and
to
up
see a
and up.
reduction of 21%. I think you're right. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And the thing here's where the occult for me comes in. So you want to talk about magic, a black magic. Dark magic is designed to deceive and distract its victims. Well, the financial markets are exactly that right now unfolding. You have the artificial cost for gasoline. You have what they call subsidizing, taking our money and subsidizing the price, which then makes it worse because you're artificially keeping it down. And then when you take off those constraints, it begins to jump to a point where it's unobtainable. And all of these things are in factor. You look at the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate. What they have done is a travesty to the American people. We have now, under this current administration, gone nearly $9 trillion in debt. We don't have that money. The United States is technically broke. Even if and if you look at the debt clock, they always try to offset it. Well, we have land and we have people. Well, people are basically slaves. That's what it is. We're traded. And when you have an economic collapse like we had in the 1920s that led into the first Great Depression, our society can't exist today if we had those similar things going on. There would be chaos everywhere. There would be, in which we're already there. You now have these migrants that are now, because they can't eat, they're raiding supermarkets. Eventually, you're going to have it to where the supermarkets will have armed guards and limit those who can go in. In fact, I understand that's already happening. It's a societal collapse.
Yep. And I want to know how long freaking Harris has known about Biden's cognitive decline. How long did she know that he wasn't all there? You know? And how many times did they lie to us? How long did mainstream media lie to us over and over again that Biden was all cognitively
They told us in June. I've saved the clips, Ryder, that, ABC News, NBC News, CNN, MSNBC, all saying that the president is fine, that his health, his doctor says his cognitive health is outstanding. These were direct lies and deceptions. And then we're talking about the president of the United States, the most powerful man supposedly in the world. And now we find out that he hasn't been home up here for at least the last 3 years.
I mean, it should have been a telltale sign whenever they tried to prosecute him for the supposed documents or whatever, and then they came out and said that he wasn't mental. That should have been a red flag. How long ago was that?
Well, I've seen constitutionalist attorneys who have said that that's one thing the Department of Justice is going to have to answer for. They chose not to prosecute a man that had committed a felony. Robert Hur, the special prosecutor, that's what he said. Read the report. He committed a felony. He did not have the authorization as a senator nor as a vice president to have any of those documents. And yet, we go and prosecute Trump on trumped up charges, and we that's what's so freaking scary. We are there right now. I told someone recently, we are where Nazi Germany was in 1932. We are exactly at the same spot.
Yep. I believe it, and it's that's all the signs are there. And when you look historically at a lot of the events and what they do to try and get out of a situation like this, it's always war. And this time it's going to end up as some form, I personally believe, as a uprising, some sort of civil conflict. I mean, they've already been pumping up that, wasn't it Biden that said in like 2021 that the greatest threat to American democracy is domestic terrorism?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure he said that.
He also said when he came into his term of office that we were entering the dark winter. That wasn't a season. That's an event.
That's a long drawn out.
It's a long, thank you, sir. Absolutely. It's a long, that's what's the difference between a strategy and a strategist. A strategy is something that you plan for short term. A strategist is one that looks at the big picture and said, well, this is like Obama. As he said, the nudge theory. You don't push an opponent, you nudge them very slowly, very inconspicuously. And eventually he's going to look up and going, what the hell happened? We're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that we're all going to be looking up and going to be like, what the hell happened here pretty soon.
And we're going to be on a list. I'm already on the list, but it's like, okay, put me on the Christmas list, you know. But yeah,
No, it's just so wild, the amount of lies and the amount of gaslighting that's just blatantly come from the mainstream media and MSNBC. And I mean, and Fox News is no better. I don't listen to any news channel. I just see the headlines, and the headlines are completely ridiculous. It's
you know what I really can't, it hurts me inside is the fact that we have such a nation of great leaders, great thinkers, but they won't step up to come into leadership positions, and then we're stuck with what we have today. And you know, I was telling my audience just the other day, you know, there are so many brilliant female leaders in business, in academics, and yet we have one that this so fails the resume. I mean, I look at the presidential race that as a board of director, it means me as a citizen, that I'm doing an interview. I'm interviewing two candidates for the position. And I often said, you know, like Alphabet, they back Harris. And I wrote to them because I own stock. And I said, so you're backing Harris, but my question is, would you allow Harris to run Google? Now, I'd let Trump. I mean, I wouldn't know if I like his policies, but hey, listen, he's the one flying around in his own private 757. You know, I mean, that at least as I'm doing the resume thing, you got to check that off and go, oh, at least he knows how to run a business. But anyway,
you know what the wildest thing about this whole thing is that we don't even know any of Harris's policies. We don't know what she is going to do. She was literally asked the other day, I think that it was on CNN. I posted a clip of it on my Facebook page where she was asked, what are you going to do about inflation? And she said, oh, well, she stuttered around a little bit. And then she said, well, the American families, they need to realize that the cost of living is going up. Like, what did you just say? Like, she does. There's nothing on her website that indicates anything that she's going to do if she becomes president, besides copy everything that Trump has said.
Yeah.
Literally the other day, she said that she was going to build a wall.
Let's see, but she's been the border czar for the last 3.5 years. So she, under her watch, has allowed the United States to be invaded by the single largest army of people ever recorded in history. And because of those acts that she failed to do as the vice president, has now ramifications that are going to reverberate in this nation of violence. It's going to come in as shortages. And we don't know how many terrorists are here, but they're here. And you're right. I mean, it's so pathetic that they put Harris up there, and we watched her do a coup d'etat on Biden. She violated the laws of the Democratic platform.
Yes, against the Constitution.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very frightening to see where we are. And listen, I am not an all Trump fan. You know, my thing against Trump is that, buddy, you may have learned how to run a business, but when you came in as president, you were so freaking naive that you let your enemies inside your inner camp. And you want to know why you had such a rough time? You should have been smarter than that. You should have been smarter in a lot of things. But, you know, if I had, it's.
Well, the thing that I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. But he admitted that. If you listen to his, if you listen to his interview on the Sean Ryan show, at the end of the interview, he admits all that. He said, "Listen, in my first term, I really had no idea what I was doing," and that takes a big man
I have a lot of
Makes you
respect for the
honor
dude for that. Yeah.
and respect to do that, to come out and say, listen, like my first term, I didn't have any, but you've seen throughout his 4 years that he started firing a lot of people and getting rid of a lot of people.
So what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not, I obviously, I've never voted in my life and I'm going to continue not to vote, but I can call out things when I see a bunch of hypocrisy, a bunch of nonsense that's going on. I mean,
Well, it's like here in the state of Missouri that I live in. They got a Senate race going in, right? They've put $100 million, both sides, into one race that of the job position that if you take the 6 years doesn't even pay $1 million. What's going on here? I mean, and you're just, oh man, it's nuts.
It is wild, and we're in for a.
I feel like I'm in a Marx Brothers movie, and I can't get out. And Groucho is, Kamala Harris, and I'm going, oh crap, and Harpo is Trump.
Well, you got any predictions for the debate tonight that happens in 5
I think that Trump
hours?
is going to be the chess master. I listen. Kamala will bury herself by her own words. I mean, she has no track record, and I happen to think that where Trump handled Biden like a maestro, that today Trump is going to be the wizard behind the curtain. That I think she's going to sink herself. But here's my other prediction. You see, I believe that Trump is going to make it as president. I don't think they're going to allow him in as president. I think Kamala will become president of the United States on October 15th of this year. Joe Biden will resign for medical of cognitive decline, and that when the election is over and the results, this is just my opinion, that Trump will have won, but they will not allow him to take office.
Whew. So you think Biden's going to completely step down out of office?
Oh, I didn't know. It's a fact. It's in the back channels. I'm seeing it everywhere now coming out. He will be stepping down.
Why didn't they do that earlier? Why didn't they do that whenever he decided not to run again?
Dementia, late stage dementia, is that you can cognitively function pretty well in stage 1, 2, and 3. But when you start reaching into the 4th stages of dementia, that's where it advances. And this is what happened to Joe Biden. He is now in an advanced state of dementia, and he cannot continue as president. And this is in the works. When the coup d'etat took over him and he realized who his true enemies were, he gave up. He gave up running this country. He gave up, and he knew that the eventuality was that because of his cognitive decline, he will step down, and you will see Madam Harris becoming the first female president of the United States.
See, I just did not think that that's the way that they wanted to do it. I didn't think that they wanted.
I don't think they wanted to do it that way either. It's not what Obama wanted. So it tells me someone else besides Obama is riding the horse here. I don't know who that is.
Because that's a really a super cheaty way to get a woman elected president of the United States. You know what I mean? The first woman president
on it.
Didn't actually win the presidency. She was given the presidency. It's like, man, pump the brakes on that one. Pump the brakes on that one. But I thought that if they were going to do that, they would have already done it.
No, I don't think so. I think that you have to other factors that are in play here. I mean, the reason why I think they delayed the sentencing for Trump in the New York case, they didn't want to give any other more advantage to him. They've already made him a martyr. As I said, when they tried to assassinate him, they raised him to the level of demigod. And that was a big mistake. The thing with Harris, and I think it's because of Biden's cognitive decline. It started kicking in so quick that they couldn't give him anything to counter it. And as a result, no one had a fallback position. If it wasn't Harris, then who was it going to be? Newsom? I mean, there were other candidates out there, but No, I think the powers to be said we're going to coalesce around Harris, and we'll rewrite her history. We'll rewrite her image, and I think that they're rolling the dice. But I do not believe that they will allow Trump in as president.
Man, I really hope that they don't do it like that. That's going to be, but that will take all the attention off of anything Trump's doing. Is if Biden completely steps down and Harris is the president for 3 months before.
And think about this: if his, I don't know when the
that just
new
seems so
sentencing
late,
date.
man. That's just so late in the game to pull something like that. They were going to do that. They should have already have done it. Should have done it instead of Biden saying that he's not running. He should have just been like, I'm stepping down completely. And Harris is now the president.
Yeah, I think that this aided in Biden's decline. I mean, it's just me. And it depends on when they're going to sentence Trump. It'll probably be now being sometime in December. So he'll get a felony conviction with prison time. We are going to be in a hell of a mess, because if he wins the election, then he gets convicted with jail time. How, do you see the scenario being set up?
But you can't convict the sitting president, though. You can't bring charges against the sitting president.
But his conviction was, you see where we're at?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I mean, this is a chess game, man. And I don't know what minds are playing the pieces, and listen, I read most of my stuff through the financial outlets, because they really tell you what's going on, what's happening in the markets. And this is what the markets are saying. This is what they're preparing for.
Oh man. It's even worse than I thought it was going to be.
Hey, listen, I got real concerned when Putin backed Harris, and now the Iranian government is backing Harris. I'm saying, come on, folks. This wait a minute.
You didn't think that was a major troll from Putin, though? Like,
could be
troll the United States and make them try and say something good about my country.
I think he likes fucking with the Americans' heads. He really does. I think this dude is a total mind job, man. It's like, let me just really throw in some other stuff here. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be really funny, though, if he was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm going to try and make them to say something good about me and my country. So I'll support Harris. So then MSNBC and CNN and all these people have to be like, oh my God, Putin supports us.
You talk about the troll, because, when I heard that, I'm going, well, what the hell about Ukraine? What? All right, sure. Go.
Yeah, I thought that would have been really funny. But I think that, really quickly, my thoughts on the debate tonight, I'm going to wrap it up. I think that it's going to go pretty much the way that the first debate went with Biden. And I hope that Trump is really reserved in his actions, and that it's not that 2020 debate with him and Biden, because he did too much there. Too much that...
This is where less is more.
Yes. This is the perfect... I mean, we know that she can't string a sentence together. We know that she can't talk without a teleprompter telling her what to say. She freezes up when she has to go off of the teleprompter. So we know that she's not going to be able to... I think she's just as bad as Biden, and she has no excuse, because Biden has mental problems. She doesn't. She should be able to get up there and speak exactly what she wants to say, but she can't. And I think if Trump just takes a step back, relax, let her bury herself, then it's all going to become abundantly clear. But if he doesn't, and he goes off and he tries to do the Hillary Clinton thing that he did with Hillary Clinton, and the thing that he did with Biden in the 2020 debates, then it's going to be a really wishy-washy. And then they can use some things to their advantage there. But if he just sits back and lets her bury herself, then it'll all be good. But if he doesn't,
I agree.
It's a different story. But Wayne, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Lovely discussion. So let people know where they can find you.
R. Wayne Steiger over on YouTube and on Rumble and Odysee. So yeah, for sure. And I want to get you and Jay on over on my channel so we can talk about the new movie.
Absolutely. Whenever it gets released, I just sent out the hard drive yesterday, so it'll be a couple of days before they get it, and then be uploading it. So it'll hopefully be up before the end of the month. So we'll schedule something.
Let's
then
do
for
that.
sure. But thanks everyone in the chat. Appreciate each and every single one of you guys. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel in the algorithm. Share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon as well for notifications. All right. Good hanging with you guys. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.